Listener discretion is advised. This episode deals with a deeply sensitive and distressing topic, child molestation. We want to make sure that you, our listeners, are aware of the nature of this content. If you or someone you know has been affected by child molestation, this episode may be triggering. Please remember that it's okay to skip this episode if you believe it could be harmful to your well-being. Your mental and emotional health is our priority. If you're in distress or need support, consider reaching out to a mental health professional, therapist, or a trusted individual. You are not alone, and there is help available. For those who choose to listen, we'll approach this topic with the utmost sensitivity and care. We aim to provide information and support for survivors and to foster a better understanding of this difficult issue. I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
Listen, we're just two single girls from the City of Roses discussing all things love, lust, and perception.
And roses are a symbol of all things beautiful about love.
But as you know, love can get a little dirty, so we're here to talk about it.
Dirty Roses Podcast starts now.
Hey, I'm LaRie.
And I'm Nick B.
And welcome to Dirty Roses Podcast. I feel like I'm oddly chipper right now. And
Chipper.
We're going to be talking about a very serious topic today. And I feel like I'm going to have to dial it back for a second. Maybe not yet. Maybe we should keep
Let's
happy.
see how it goes.
Okay, we're going to do this naturally and organically,
Yes.
okay? We are joined today by my dear, wonderful, amazing, beautiful cousin, Sherry, who is a life coach, a peer mentor, an addiction support person. She's a community advocate, all things a spiritual guru. I tell you, every time I talk to her on the phone, she takes me to church, and I don't even go to church, but I be feeling like I got to give her an offering or something. Like she needs a pastor collection plate. It happens every single time. I call her Pastor Sherry. But welcome, Miss Sherlyn Perryman, newly married. We can't call her Sherry now because her last name is going to be Harry. She's going to be Sherry Harry.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. I had to share that joke because I love it. She's like, really, Leigh?
Every time.
But congratulations on your wedding. And we are going to kind of tap into that in a little bit when we talk about how we got there.
Okay.
But every episode, Nick B, and we start with a story.
Yes.
Or a scenario that kind of guides us to how we got here, right? So we have a guy who suffered really bad depression, right? He had really traumatic experience as a child, drug-addicted parents, alcoholism, mom was in and out of prison a lot, homelessness, lived in abandoned houses, really justice involved, drug addict type situations going on, saw a lot of things that he shouldn't have seen as a youth that really impacted how he dealt with life as an adult. In his relationship, however, due to not having addressed those trauma issues, it impacted how his relationships went and how he treated his partner and how all those things happened to where their relationship no longer lasted because he had not addressed those situations and issues that had really shaped how he treats people. And so we talk about how childhood trauma impacts relationships, impacts how you navigate as an adult. I know Nick B and I have shared a lot of things between ourselves about just our experiences growing up and how that has kind of, geared our thoughts and our processes. And we process a lot of things together over the phone. Well, maybe did this happen? This did. I don't know. But also in talking about this topic, Miss Sherry, we know that you are writing a book and it stems from your childhood experiences. And I don't know, Nick B, did you want to add anything?
I don't think I have any childhood trauma. And I say think because I recognize that especially with childhood trauma, there's a lot of things that people naturally block. And I really try to think back, and the reason why it's questionable for me is because I have a sibling who we grew up in the same household, had the same experiences, had the same opportunities from, day one all the way through graduating high school. We lived the same opportunities.
Right.
And yet we had two incredibly different childhoods, which I didn't realize that his perception of our childhood is very different than mine. And we're only 2.5 years apart from each other. So when I say I don't think I have any childhood trauma, I really think about my brother who has a lot of childhood trauma. And it's always been interesting to me that I don't recognize the same things he does. And so I'm like, well, am I blocking anything?
Right.
Did I miss something that maybe he is still processing and that my version of getting through it was to block it somehow?
Yeah.
So
I don't know, maybe we can define what trauma actually is, because I feel like whenever you hear the word trauma, you automatically go to like these extreme scenarios of like abuse, neglect, all these things. But that doesn't necessarily, to me, doesn't always have to be like super extreme. So
because I don't recognize any of those with me.
Right.
I recognize those with him, but not me.
Right. So what do you consider trauma?
Well, you said the key word recognize. And so childhood trauma basically, in layman's terms, is just an experience that one has had that affects, the way that you live, the way that you navigate through life. And so sometimes we don't always recognize it, or it's not shown in the same way, because like you said, the way that you process things and the way that your brother process things are different. Sometimes you process things later. Sometimes they immediately affect you. And so I call them our little eyes. When I write in my book, I talk about little Sherry and what she saw in her little eyes, opposed to the way that I see them now with more mature eyes. And so his little eyes saw something different than your eyes saw.
Yes.
He saw the same exact thing, but his mental processed it different. And so he's able to say, he may be more intricate about the way that he details things. Yeah. Because mom could have just said, you guys get in the house. But to him, mom was yelling, her voice was projected, and you could just say mom's personality was passionate. So you didn't see it the way that he saw aggressive. Right. You saw passion, he saw aggressive. Right. So that's it's fair. Just about the way that you see it. And then it shows up later in your adulthood.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. That's accurate. And I can totally relate to that too. That's why I say that another good friend of mine pointed out to me that Leigh and I could be sitting in the same room looking at the same photo on a wall. But if she's sitting closer to that photo than I am, her perspective is different. Right. And that goes to show the example you gave of mom yelling, hey, come get in the house, where maybe my brother, who is 2.5 years younger, for example, as a younger mind, a younger version of him saw that as aggressive or angry. And me being slightly older and also a female that has, like guys and girls process things a little differently. Right. Maybe I'm seeing that as passionate. So that's an absolute good example of how two people could have two different childhood experiences growing up in the same environment. So
it's funny you mention eyes, because I would definitely see things differently than you would.
Yes, you would. Leigh can't see. Okay, guys.
Run into the picture and knock it off the wall.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us about your childhood and like give us a little bit of glimpse into your life and what brought you to the point of where you're at now.
Okay, my childhood was my childhood trauma was different. Like I hear a lot of stories, and because I do work in the recovery community, you have a lot of people that, my mom was on drugs and my mom was prostituting. Well, that wasn't my story. I grew up in church every Sunday morning, Sunday school, like non-negotiable. That was just the way we were routine to do. Sunday night, Wednesday, Bible study. And so church was our thing. But I was molested by my stepfather. And so where it was like everything looked great on the outside, because our house was the house that everybody came to eat. We're from down south, we're from Louisiana. So my mom cooked by the kettles every day. We always had so, like one of my friends said, you guys always have pastries, because my mom, every day we had pies and cakes and cookies. And it's like, oh, you don't like banana pudding? We got, chocolate cake. Oh, you don't like chocolate cake either? We got sweet potato pie. That was like on a Wednesday. That was just the way we ate, So it looked wholesome and good. But at night, like my book is called Creaky Floors. So at night is when creaky floors set in. And so what that did for me is being abused, I feel like it gave me strength. It gave me that piece of childhood trauma gave me strength to go through so many different facets of life that I had to experience. And I call them experiences because there's something that I went through. It had a beginning, there was a middle piece to it, and then everything has an end date. Yeah. Some end dates, you know, some people's dash in the middle is longer. Mine might have been here, somebody else's is here, somebody else just never looks like they see the light of day, but everything has an end date. So where it got me was I gave birth at 19 to a daughter with cerebral palsy that the doctors told me would never walk, talk, read, or write. I got married because I was pregnant. So I was newly married, pregnant with this baby that they said would never walk, talk, read, or write. I gave birth to her. A year after that, when she was about a year old, my husband died in a car accident. So I'm stuck. I'm pregnant with another baby. I have a 1-year-old with cerebral palsy, and I'm a widow before I'm even 21 years old.
My goodness.
And so I look at it as now that the strength that I gained through being abused, because one of the things that I told myself was everybody was dealt a hand in life. Some people are dealt a good hand, you know? Yours wasn't so good, so you better play it to the best of your ability. Now, because of that, I made a lot of bad choices in my 20s, just what I looked at as surviving. And my dad, I'm a daddy's girl, my biological dad was a pimp and a dope dealer. So I go from who I spent a lot of time with. So I go from this church house to this dope house. And that's my life. So everything in life was extreme for me. So I created this extreme personality. I love you or I hate you. Either I'll die for you or I'll kill you. So it was like
very black and white.
We're gonna delete that part.
She's not going to kill anybody.
For the record, please no one do a welfare check on her.
God is okay.
All the time.
So I just, but I had this extreme personality because that was what I was accustomed to from as far back as I remember. My mom and my dad divorced when I was 9 years old. So I had no recollection of them being together. And so in growing up, I was always in survival mode. And my dad gave me everything that he had to give me, which was street. So his whole thing was, let's see, I got to use better words. You don't let a man.
Let me not direct quote him, she says.
Right.
Clean this up a little in my head.
She said she don't want nobody coming back being like, you can't be my peer mentor anymore.
Radio version. So,
you can say whatever you want, cousin.
Okay. Well, his words to me were do I want to say them? Okay. We'll say this. His words to me was, sometimes he would use the word nigga. Those were his better words. So he was like, you give a nigga what he gives you. You be like a bank. Don't let him withdraw anything he hasn't deposited into you. So whether that meant to money, to love, to time, to anything. So what it did was it put me on the defense always. He taught me like to scope out a room when you walk in it. And I'm thinking as a little kid, like I'm not in any of those situations, but he was giving me everything that he had to give me. And all of the time it wasn't good. And, but as a kid, it was like my dad, this is my, he's my safe space.
Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is I was in drug houses. I was in, houses where there were women walking around with nothing but panties and high heels on. Back in the day, they had the beads that would separate the doorways and the red light.
Yes.
Right. Right. And so I went from literally from this house of where God is good to this other house where we going here to pick up this money, or we going here and I'm watching my dad like beat down people, and like it was just very, very extreme.
So question, because that does seem very extreme. So how did that work where you grew up with your mom in a very churchy household, but she was married to a pimp? And then you expressed that, with the stepfather, like how did that work being in a churchy household, but they had such contradicting things happening?
It seems like her choice in men contradicted her belief.
Right.
Absolutely. In both cases, for my mom, because then you had this man in your house that abused me, that I felt, honestly, because I'd seen the lifestyle that my dad lived, I felt almost pimped out. Like your kids, because I have other siblings that are younger, that's their biological dad. So I felt like for them to go to private schools, for all of our bills to be paid, for everything to look good, I pay the price. And so it was very damaging as a kid, because my dad was teaching me to think at all times, and those thoughts probably wouldn't have come to my mind had I not experienced my dad's lifestyle. But what it did was it just taught me, it also sent a message to me to protect everybody else, because my dad didn't find out until I was 25. So
and maybe I missed this, when you were spending this time with your father, was your mom still around?
Yes, my mom is still alive. My dad is deceased.
I'm sorry to hear that. Did your mom, she didn't have any concern with letting you spend this type of time with your father when she knew that this was his lifestyle? Was she trying to protect you from any of this?
No.
Oh.
No.
Being a woman of the church and of God, she recognized what he was doing, right?
I'm pretty sure it wasn't a secret.
And so the time that you spent with your father, was it just simply because, hey, this is your weekend? Go have fun with your pops. I'll see you when he
can get me whenever he wanted. My mom and my dad, I never saw them like feud about me. Even if I was like on punishment, which I was on a lot with my mom, because I was a pretty bad adolescent, but there was never a restriction from my dad. My dad could always come. He could just pop up and get me. He could call and come and get me. And no, it was like, that's your dad, so you have the freedom to go.
Thinking back, do you think that there was no resistance because she may have been scared of him to resist?
No, there was no fear, because when they broke up, he wasn't in that lifestyle.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
So I don't even know why they broke up, but well, yeah, I do. She said he wouldn't work. My mother is a very 8 to 5. And so even though
clearly he was not.
Not at all.
He was not.
He was more of a 9 p.m. to 3 a.m. kind of guy.
Right. There was never any abuse. She did tell me that he never hit her. He never threatened her. He was kind to her, but he just didn't work. And that was like a non-negotiable for her. So
I'm curious to know. So you said that he was not in that lifestyle when he was with your mom. So yes. As a grown-up, he decided to take on a new career as a pimp. Path. It's kind of like, like how they say
they met in college. Huh? They met at Southern University.
So he's an educated man too. And he chose later in life to seek out a profession that usually the younger guys dabble in when they have less guidance. But he chose that. He didn't fall into that.
Well, okay, I would have to go deep into his life, because he, I wouldn't really call him an educated man. Back then, down south, because he played football, he was just kind of pushed through the system.
Okay,
got it.
So my dad struggled with some things also. And so, like educationally. And so for him, that was his way of surviving. He didn't feel like I could go get a job that would be sufficient enough to take care of a family. And so, unlike my mom, me and my dad talked a lot. So I could give you more of his insight than I could give you what my mom was thinking. It's just speculation. But yeah, so my dad was surviving in his eyes. Gotcha. That was his way of surviving.
Okay. So you shared that you didn't tell your dad about the childhood issues until your 20s. Is that when did you tell your mom?
I told my mom when I was 12.
Okay. And how did that go?
She found a letter that I was writing to run away. And from there, she addressed me. And she asked me, was it true? I said, yes. She said she would deal with it. It was like a 2-minute conversation. Okay, I'll deal with it. And then we never talked about it again.
Did she continue to see your stepfather after she knew about this?
They were married, living together. Nothing
so it's not
changed.
Like she ended their relationship.
No.
Did his behavior change?
Well, it had changed by the time I was I was abused from like maybe the age of 4 or 5 till I was about 10. And then at that time, I threatened to tell my dad. And then that was when it stopped.
Interesting. So I don't know if you're able to dive into his thought process. Do you really think it stopped? When it stopped, it was only because you threatened to tell your dad, not because you were getting older and he was no longer interested in a younger version of you. He was more worried about being exposed. Had you not made those comments to him, do you think this would have still gone on?
No, I believe it would have gone on. And because I choose not to share other people's story in my household, I can't go into why, but it would have gone on.
Okay.
Understood. So you said that you had you got into trouble a lot, and I know some of the stories about your trouble behaviors. But do you think that this is a direct correlation to what had happened to you, or was it other reasons why you behaved badly at school? Or
it was my response. I was angry. I was like, if I'm not happy, nobody's happy. And that was what I literally was thinking in my mind. So like I'll give you just a small example. If I was, on restriction from the phone, I remember one time I cut every phone line in the house.
Because I'm like, when we had cords.
We had cords then. And so
I can't talk, nobody can talk.
That was exactly what I said. If I ain't talking, ain't nobody talking.
Oh, wow.
Oh, and I know that like a lot of kids, when they struggle to communicate things that are going on with them, or there's something that's happening, I know that they tend to act out. So was your defiance was a way of kind of letting it be known that something was wrong, right?
Well, I'd already let it be known that something was wrong.
Okay.
Something was wrong, and I told you, and nobody is doing nothing about it. Because even though it had stopped for me, I think I wanted him gone, and I didn't realize how much I wanted him gone until I told, and then he was still there after I told. And then that was my reality was, you don't love him, she does.
Wow.
It is deep.
That is deep. So I guess going into your adult years, how did the path that your life was going, from childhood to the getting in trouble, how did that impact you with relationships, with friends, with family, with men, and even with your children? How did that impact everything?
Different for each one of those. For with men, I didn't trust men because I had been abused. I'd been touched by other men. With my dad, I saw the way he treated women. So a part of me felt like never give them what they crave for, and they'll always give me what I crave for, which was money. because by then I was on a money path, and I was like, get your bag, get your money by any means necessary. And so that, that's what it was for me. It was always a game. It was never, and I remember liking somebody a lot one time and like really pulling back because I knew that like, I just felt like emotions didn't work.
At what point did you actually start your healing process?
I would say in my 30s, I started getting counseling, and it was because of my children. I was a mother, and I wanted my kids to feel a certain way about me. Mm-hmm. I wanted them to love me. I wanted them to be open. I wanted the relationship that I didn't have with the mother. I had it with my dad, but I didn't have that like a mother-daughter. And because I had girls, I knew what men could do. So my thing was, don't have men in your house. Make your house a safe haven for your girls. Mm-hmm. And I would have visitors, but it would never be like to the extreme measures of them interacting, closely with my children, especially when they were young. I felt like it was my job to protect them. And this was their house. That's how I looked at it. This house belongs to them. They should be able to be as free as they want to be in this space. And so and they told me some things. I've been always open and honest with them. And there were pivotal moments that caused major changes, different things. Like I remember one day, I was on my way to do something pretty mean, and my daughters heard me on the phone. We'll just say that. Oh my God.
Not you premeditating and your daughters knew about it.
And one of the words they said to me when I hung up the phone was, "Dang, you get mad too easy." Ooh. And so it made me think. I dropped what I had in my hand. Ooh. And I was just like,
was it a weapon?
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Please.
We're going to move past that.
She said, you know this story. Stop setting me up here.
Right. And so I was like, okay, I don't want them to feel that way about me. And then there was a day that I had, I was thinking about doing better, and I was leaving some things alone in life. And so I had struggled to keep my lights on that day. And so they had turned them off in the morning when I came home from dropping my kids off. And I'm like, oh no. So I'm hustling all day. I got these lights turned on. And I don't know if you guys know, like back, I'm giving my age away. I'm 54. So,
Couldn't tell. Cannot tell.
Back then I was, like you could pay them right there on site when they come to turn them off. Now I think I don't know. I don't get my lights turned off now, so I don't know how they do it. But
we're on a whole new level now.
We glowed up.
Right. So I didn't have the money when the guy came and turned them off, but he said, if you pay within a certain amount of time, I can get them back on today. So we had been out and about after school with them, just waiting. So like, I don't want them to come in to lights off. Mm-hmm. So when they came in, they were like flipping on the lights, opening the refrigerator, just doing their normal routine. And I looked and I said, they really trust me. These little people really depend on me. Yeah. And so that was what caused me to like come out of a lot of things that I was doing, because I didn't want to be separated from them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what did the healing journey, like, what did you do to actually heal from specific things that had happened to you or that you experienced?
Started with therapy, and that was really hard. It was hard because I've always been open and honest. And I always tell people therapy means nothing if you're not going to tell people the truth. If you're going to lie in therapy, you might as well not go. So I was open, and my therapist began to ask me questions that for me to ask myself. And when I began to look at me and I began to see like that one of the things that I used to tell my girls is that you cannot help the way somebody makes you feel. They can piss you off. They can make you, my feelings are hurt. I'm sad. I'm a little down or depressed, but I'm 100% responsible for and in control of the way that I react or respond to those feelings. Mm-hmm. And so when I began to take accountability for my life, it didn't matter how I got there. When you're kids, you say, oh, that little girl has issues because when you're a grown woman, nobody cares about why. They just see issues and they avoid you. They don't want anything to do with you, and they deal with you accordingly. And so I began to take accountability like in my 30s, and it took some years because I had all that anger built up. And so I was still, snap back real quick, and it took me a while. And then I found, I always knew God, but then I began to see like how some things, when I began to trust God, how my life was coming full circle. It hadn't come, but it was coming full circle for me. And so I could see like, oh, the purpose for me going through losing a husband or my daughter having disabilities is because I began to work with young ladies that had disabilities. I opened up my home and started a girls group home, and I took care of disabled girls. And so, and then I had girls with behavioral issues, and they began to give me like those hard cases. And so I could see why I needed to experience that, because I knew what the feeling was. Yeah. I could relate.
Interesting. What are some tools that people could use when they're experiencing trauma or have experienced trauma? Like, what are some tools, techniques, tips that would help them move past it and begin their healing process?
It's just to know that it's an experience, and we all experience trauma in different forms. Some of it, whether it's neglect, whether it's abuse, whether it's, sometimes it doesn't happen in our childhood. Maybe as a teenager, my parents divorced, and so life changes for me. Maybe my best friend dies, and so life changes for me. I don't have that connection with anybody else. Maybe I get heartbroken from a boyfriend that I think was my world at 18. And so life changes then, because now I have these emotions, and I was with this person that I thought would be my forever partner, because how we are when we're young, we like that when we're old. So, but life changes. Or maybe life has been great. I married my childhood sweetheart or my high school sweetheart, and then we divorced later. Or I can't have children, or I have too many children and it's hard to take care of them. Trauma just looks different for everybody, and we experience it at different phases of our life. So just being able to identify that this is an experience, and that's hard to get to, because first of all, you got to know that. Like somebody almost has to tell you that it's an experience, baby, and you're going to go through it. You're not going to live here. Yeah. So that was the main thing, is not allowing all of the experiences I've had, whether that be from, I was in a car wreck when I was 16, reconstruction to the left side of my face, car flips upside down, on fire. I had to be pulled out at 1:00 in the morning. So, just like on the freeway. So all of these things that I've gone through, I feel like have given me strength. Mm-hmm. It's just an add-on for a little more strength. I didn't know it when I was in it. It was painful. And at the time, it made me a little more angry about why is life giving me all this. Right. But once I decided that I don't like the way that I feel, I don't like being angry. I don't like being sad. I don't like always asking, why did this happen? I never really said why me, but I would just be like something else again, And one of my prayers when I was younger was to not have emotions. I didn't want to be that crybaby that cried about everything, because I was going through so much. And then it's amazing that when I was in my 30s, I asked God to give me emotions because I wanted to care about people.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of things. It's like identifying that there's a problem. And then, looking at the fact that it has affected my life and it's affecting the way that I'm living. And then I am in control of changing the narrative of my life, no matter how hard it is. I went through a phase where I didn't have a driver's license. I didn't have insurance. I had a record. I had a warrant for my arrest. Like you name it, I had it.
Yeah.
And so I felt like in that moment, I was in a pit and I had 2 babies. And I was like, what else are you going to give me? I've dealt with death. I've dealt with, all of these different things. What else is going to happen to me? And I made a conscious decision that it may take a while, but I started paying restitution. I started, like we have to be accountable. Like I know sometimes, like even for those of us that are in church, we feel like, oh, God is going to do it. And he is going to do it. But we have to start, we have to be, even when we give our life to Christ, it's confess. That's the first thing you do. Confess, believe, and receive. So it's like, I have to do some things in life. I have to admit that I was wrong. There were a lot of mistakes that life gave me, but there were a lot of self-inflicted actions also. So once I became accountable and I began to say, look, I don't want life to be like this. There's got to be a better way of living. Then I began to chip away at some of those things. Okay, you can get it. You can get your stuff expunged. Okay, you can pay those tickets, or okay, you can pay restitution. And, then it's like now I can say like, okay, I can apply for any job I want. Yeah. You can pull me over, police.
Because my background is clean. So now being recently married, when you met your now husband, you guys were courting, dating seriously, engaged. Did you struggle with trusting him at any point of your relationship?
I didn't struggle in the relationship. I struggled in the beginning with myself because, mind you, I was coming out of, I've been 2 years out of a bad relationship. Not bad to where there was abuse, because I made that decision a long time ago. Was nobody going to put their hands on me or physically abuse me in any way. But accepting things that I knew that I was worthy of more, but I didn't really know that I would ever receive more. And so when I met Mike, that's my husband, when I met Mike, again, being intentional, I intentionally knew I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to, and this had nothing to do with what he was going to do to me. I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to give this everything that I have to give to it, in a healthy way. And so once I made those decisions, then I felt like I was free in it. If he would have decided to cheat on me and I would have found out, I could have walked away and said, hey, I gave it the best I had. He wasn't the one for me. Yeah. Because I had freed myself of that. I struggled in the beginning with trusting my decisions, not his. And I had to, like I said, in the beginning, it was on a regular basis that it was like, okay, if somebody offers you their phone number or somebody tries to talk, you're not going to go into this like that. You're going to really see what can happen in this, because I had never been in love, like real love before. Infatuation and, liking somebody a lot, or, oh, he looks so good, or, oh, he lick his lips, or, whatever it is that we like. Yeah. That's enticing to us or intriguing to us. But I had never been with anybody that really cared about who I was and how I lived and wanted to hear my thoughts. And, one of the things, they said this at the wedding, I don't know if you got to hear this, Leigh, the pastor had said that when he asked me what made me know that Mike really loved me, he came to Portland on his birthday. And my headlights, I don't even know why, like ironically, both of my headlights went out. And I made an appointment to go. They were like $485 each to get fixed. And so I was talking to him, but I was talking to him about like giving me the money to get the lights fixed. And so he said, I'm gonna fix them. And I'm like, have you ever done this before? And he said, no. On his birthday, he got on the ground. And the way they had told me, we have to take the front end of the car off. He went underneath, like YouTube did, went underneath the car.
University.
Right. And like 20 minutes later, flat, lights on. And I'm like, on your birthday, on your back, on the ground for me. And then he told me when he got up, he said, as long as I'm around, you don't have to worry about anything. And when I'm not around, you don't have to worry for long. And handed me a AAA card.
I know that's right.
I love it.
So it wasn't like, okay, a black card, but it's like, I got you. I really got you. And it was more than money. I really got you.
You didn't have the same type of experience with your first child's father? The one that passed away? I guess not, based on your face. The one who passed away.
We were young.
Okay.
We'll put it this way. We were young and I got pregnant. Mm-hmm. And I moved to Seattle because that's where he was. And I moved there before I got pregnant. I was running from Portland. Okay. I was running from
most
my
people
house.
Do. Most
people the first thing smoking.
Okay.
So I graduated 17 and I was out of here. And so we met. He was really nice to me, but I don't think we loved each other. I think we loved our daughter. And we were rescuing each other because he had childhood trauma. And so we were a safe space for each other, but there was no love. And we didn't know neither one of us were even in the process of healing. So during that time, we did a lot of hurt to one another. So no, I didn't experience that.
How did you, it seems like maybe you picked or mimicked the relationship that you had or witnessed with your biological father and the men that you picked early in your younger years. Do you know why? Like why that was? What was it about the pieces of your dad that made you want to pick men like that? And then
I always pick drug dealers or people like that because it was comfortable. It was comfortable and it was security. Money was security to me because what I didn't touch on is that even though I was abused in the household, I was like that teenager that I graduated from high school in 87. So I was given like $20 a day just to kind of stay out of the way. You can go to basketball games, you can do whatever you want. You have to come back home at night. But, that was it was $20 on the ironing board every day for me. And so then from my dad, it was, you could get whatever you want, because, that money is easy money. And so to me, I was familiar. My dad had schooled me on those type of men. Okay. So I knew that whole lifestyle and it was comfortable. I didn't know what to do with a doctor or if a person that sat there. I knew how to, like my dad taught me how to cut steak and this is the way a lady eats. He groomed me. He groomed women. That's what he did. Yeah. And so I knew I could be in the presence of the elite, but I couldn't hold conversation. And so that would be uncomfortable for me. So to get somebody that was, when I was like 20, 21, that was in school or had been to school or that was doing something legal with their life, legitimate, I didn't even feel comfortable in that atmosphere. And even when it came to church men, I still felt I had a love for God and a respect for spirituality. So I didn't feel worthy because I knew what I was doing.
Right.
I was that one that would be going off to do something wrong, and I would be praying, saying, Lord, just let me be safe, keep me, cover me while I'm here, and let me make it back home safe. And I never promised God that I wasn't going to do it again. I just wanted him to cover me.
God, you know my heart, because I'm going to do this again, but just make sure that I'm okay
right.
This time,
so I can learn my lesson later in life.
Right. I
wanted to go back because you mentioned with your first husband that you guys are kind of healing together, or like you were surviving together, right?
Yeah.
And we hear a lot about people that trauma bond and they connect over trauma. Why do you think people do that? And what are there benefits to being with somebody who is also experiencing trauma, or is that like a completely unhealthy thing?
It's a completely unhealthy thing. It's almost like a magnet. It's something in you that recognizes something in them, and I think it's subconscious. That you just kind of gravitate to each other some kind of way, and the unhealthiness in it is because, especially for us, because we were so young, and neither one of us even knew about healing. We just would lay at night and talk about our hurt. We could cry to each other, but I wasn't comforting to him and he wasn't comforting to me. It was just comfortable to be there with somebody that I could cry to, that later would judge me and I would judge him.
Damn.
But in that moment,
last night you was crying. Oh, baby.
Yeah, it would be, it would be like when in our angry moments.
Oh, you would use it against each other.
Then I'm going to throw up the reason that you like that because your daddy didn't do you right, and so then he would throw things at me. So we would throw things at each other and then come back together. And like throwing things, I mean, words.
Pretty much.
Yeah. And that was because we were used to hurt. It was comfortable. It was comfortable for us, but it was not a healing process at all.
Right.
It wasn't. It was very unhealthy.
So on the contrary, how today does your husband compliment you? How does he support you? And how do you support him when it comes to trauma?
I am, like, probably, as you can tell, the most open book ever. So he knows. We talked a lot in the beginning about just our lives. That was one of the things that I wanted. I wanted the truth. Like, tell me all of your low down, dirty, not as far as like women, but have you ever been to jail? Have you ever been, and my story is a lot more dramatic than his. He has his stuff, but once we knew everything that was out there, then I asked more questions because I was at that point working with people in trauma. And so, I'm asking him about he didn't know like really how to express what the healing process was for him. He just knew that he wanted a better life. And so he began to change and do things differently. And so we're, even to this day, we're just very, very open about the way that we feel about, when it's little things, we're open. I'm one that I need a moment. If I'm feeling away, like, give me a moment, and he's wanting to talk right now. And so we're figuring that out still, like how do I get what I need and you get what you need too? So we'll meet in the middle, like, give me 5 minutes. I can't just like get it out.
You can't get because a full day, but you can get 5 minutes.
Well, no, absolutely not a day.
Right.
We don't do a day. We did counseling, of course, together. And then we watch a lot of relationship videos. Oh, okay. So shout out to Dr. Darius Daniels.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, you got good recommendations because we need some.
Right. Let me heal my relationship.
Daniels, he did this series called Relational Intelligence. It's a 6-series. I don't know what you would call it. anyway, it was a 6 series, and it talks about the different phases of how to be intelligent in the way that you deal with all of your relationships, your financial relationships, because we have a relationship with everything in life.
Yeah.
And so in watching that and seeing, like us saying, I'm not going to be the best wife I can be, and you're not going to be the best husband. I'm going to be the best person that I can be to you, and you be the best person that you can be to me. So that means you're always working on yourself. I'm always working on me. And in that process, you get the best of me. I choose to only give you me.
Yeah.
And then, I think because as women, I'll go here. Sometimes we overgive. We give, it goes back to what my dad said about being like a bank, not giving anyone anything that they're not giving you. Because even though I'm giving you the best of me, I do have an expectation. I live with expectations from people. A lot of people don't. And even if that's just to be you. If you're a liar, you a liar. I expect you to always lie to me.
I know this and I expect it from you.
Yes.
Right. But people that I choose, I respect my inner circle. I really call it a dot to dot. I don't really have enough to make a circle.
The whole circle.
But right. But the people that I choose to have in my personal space have to really love me. And you have to commit to me as I'm going to commit to you. When you're hurting and when you're going through something, I may not be able to give you what you gave me, but I'm going to give you what I have to give. If that's an ear, maybe you had advice for me, but all I have is an ear for you. Maybe I have dinner. I can make you laugh. Some people I call on just to get a good laugh. When I'm down, it's like, okay, let me dial this number because I know in 2 seconds I'm going to be on the phone laughing.
That would be Leigh.
Exactly.
That's my laughing buddy right there.
Yeah. So in that with him, I have expectations. I'm acting like he's next to me. I have expectations of him, and he has it of me. So his thing was, when we were back to the question, when we disagree strongly, my mind is shut it down so that you don't say something that you got to apologize for later. He didn't receive it like that. He received it as me using my voice as vengeance. I'm not going to talk to you. And it's like, that never even crossed my mind. I was trying to stay safe, Yeah. But once we shared that, then it was like, okay, so now let me tell you what I'm doing. I need to debrief to myself. So let me just give me a couple minutes so that I can gather myself, and then we'll meet up and we'll talk.
Right.
And so with giving him that, he doesn't have this like she's punishing me, and then I still get my moment.
That's amazing.
I'm glad you were able to figure out each other's style of communication. And I think a lot of people, they miss that in their relationships and discovering each other is that they don't actively listen to their partners when they tell them how they prefer to communicate, and it's all about how I want to be communicated to.
Right.
I know one of my relationships, I struggled with that because when we were disagreeing about something or arguing about something, he wanted me to be as emotional as him in the argument, and me, I'm like, well, I don't like being yelled at. I cannot hear you when I feel like you are yelling at me. And even if you're not intending to yell at me, you are. And so I can't talk to you right now. And that would make the conversation even worse, boy.
I get it. And like for me, it was more like I'm hurting, so you're going to hurt. Kind of similar to how like you as a child were like, it really was. It was like, I'm hurting or I feel some kind of way. So I'm going to make sure everybody else feels what I feel because then we can all feel this way together. Yeah. And it was very miserable because I'm like I want everybody to be happy. And then it's like, oh, now we're all going to be sad and in pain. So that is dope. That kind of goes back to our season 1 theme of communication, like being a huge thing. But before we got on the call, Sherry, you held up some products that you have. So in your healing journey and where you are at life, you have now started a business, correct?
Yes, I have.
So tell us about your business.
I have my body butters.
Hey.
I have my bath foams.
Oh.
And I have various soaps. I have the charcoal soap. This soap is goat's milk. And then I have a new turmeric soap by request from someone.
Mike, you're making all of these products?
I make all of these products.
How can I get a couple of them shipped on over to me? The turmeric one, I love the idea behind it, and maybe you can answer this, especially since you are actually creating these. I know that ingesting turmeric really is good for inflammation. What about using it topically? Does that also help with like sore muscles and joints, like an Epsom salt would?
What was that again that you said?
So the turmeric soap that you just mentioned.
The turmeric.
I know that when you ingest it, that it helps with inflammation. When you're using it topically as a soap, does it also still absorb and provide same benefits?
It does not like it does, when you ingest it though. But it so does, awesome. It will, yeah, it does.
Well, I know that they use it for lightening, right? Like for dark spots and things like that.
Yes.
So, I don't want that then.
Not lightening.
I am light enough.
We've been told we're reflective today.
The turmeric was not my idea. The turmeric was a client wanted a turmeric soap, so I created it.
Okay.
My best soap.
Give me that charcoal. I need some color.
Hey.
That good old charcoal.
Blackface yourself with
No.
some soap.
No, I just want to get a nice little tan, a little toast going on.
Oh my goodness. So Sherry,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. It will what?
It detoxifies. It will.
I'll take that. I need to get the toxicity out of me.
I love that. And so how can people order if they're not where you're at?
If they're not where I'm at, sncreations.biz.
Okay.
And that's my website. Go there and you can pick whatever you want. And I may have a couple of surprises here and there. Like I do gift boxes like Christmas coming up. We'll have gift boxes, Valentine's Day, have some special treats. And then I do have where you can request gift baskets where I'll make them up with robes or whatever,
She does a really amazing money basket.
I like
it's
money.
Really cool. Like rolled up money, and it's like a big giant basket.
I'll have to get you guys a picture of it.
Yeah. I have to go to the website and check all these products out.
And I like that as a Black woman business, we also want to support other Black owned businesses. Yes. And if you notice on our table here, we've got some beautiful purses that I get from when I go to DC. There's a store that I love to go to called the Omni Collection.
And it's right on H Street. To all of my DC listeners.
Yes. And you can find them also on Instagram under the Omni Collection. But they have a ton of like different items from different people, vendors that create these
I love that.
unique pieces. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I fell in love with was these clock purses that they have there. So every time I go to DC, I'm like, I got to go get a new clock purse.
And we can see how many times she's been to DC.
And this is all from 1 year, in the past year.
But why was I going to ask you about those? Yes. I was looking at that when he came and moved them. I thought they were clocks. And then I said, oh, they're purses. Yes. I love that. Yes, so I need one.
They're amazing. They're very unique. They have some amazing things in there. You can also get incense. We've got some the coal incenses. Incenses. But there's a lot of great things. The young lady who runs the shop, I think her name's Toast, she's a really amazing. And they do aerial pole dancing and ring classes where you can do those.
Check them out on Instagram.
Yes. So go to the Omni Collection. You can find all their stuff there. And we're going to go to sncreations.biz to order some soaps. I love her foams and the body butters. They're my favorite. And we might have some things in the works for Dirty Roses that you have to keep a lookout for. But Miss Sherry, where can they find you personally?
They can find me personally. You can email me at Sherlyn.Nichelle, SHERLYN.NICHELLE @gmail.com. And that's how you can get in touch with me, for whether that be for life coaching or you just want to email me about some products. I also have I don't think you know about this one, Leigh. I have Mike and I are doing a nonprofit we started up. I mean, like just recently started up a nonprofit where we're helping underprivileged youth, and not just like under 18, but like 25 and under, where we're doing a reentry program. So people that are getting released from prison, helping them get reacclimated into society. He right now he gives his Mondays to group homes where I do workshops, and he goes in and he gives free haircuts to the youth in the group homes. So we've got some great stuff coming.
We love it. Well, we will share your contact information. Nick B, where can people find you?
So I can be found on all Dirty Roses outlets. May that be our Instagram, our TikTok, our Twitter, our Facebook pages. And I can be reached personally on Instagram at NickB_Nick B. That's Nick with a K. So Miss Leigh LaRie, where can we find you?
You can find me everywhere. I say that every time, everywhere. On all social media platforms, LeighlaRie. That's Leigh LaRie. Of course, Dirty Roses Podcast on all platforms, and dirtyrosespodcast.com, where we post all of the links to all of the websites that our podcast is on. You can watch the videos and leave us a review. And if you want to be a sponsor or get some ads in our show, hit us up there too. But you can also reach us next time. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk soon.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Guess what, Rose Buddies? We are thrilled to introduce our new sponsorship packages. Be sure to hit us up at dirtyrosespodcast.com to inquire how we can showcase your brand on our platforms.